Hello and welcome to the Winner Winner podcast by Welcome, where we speak with the Democratic Party candidates who prove they can win the middle, beat Republicans on Trump turf, and recalibrate the party to where the median voter is. Here at Welcome, we work to strengthen a centrist faction that wins and governs responsibly. We support centrist Democrats running in Trump districts through Welcome Pack. Today, I'm super stoked to be in conversation with Bobby Pulido, who's running for Congress in Texas's 15th Congressional District in South Texas against Monica de la Cruz. Bobby's a native South Texan and is a Grammy Award-winning Tejano music artist.
You may know me as Bobby Pulido, the singer, but I am Jose Roberto Pulido Jr.
His hits and star status has helped define modern Tejano music and solidify his reputation as a cultural ambassador for the region. Texas 15 is one of the newly drawn congressional districts that the Texas GOP is betting will result in a Republican hold. It has a PVI of R+7, and Trump won the district in 2024 by 18 points. But Hispanic voters in South Texas have shown significant volatility in recent cycles, and recent polling has shown meaningful movement away from Donald Trump among Hispanic voters, creating a real opening in this district that may not be as red as recent results suggest. The district was also recently added to DCCC's District and Playlist, a possible precursor to Red to Blue. Bobby, welcome to the Winner Winner podcast, and so nice to chat with you today.
Likewise, Lauren. Hello, how are you doing? My pleasure.
Great to see you, always. So, just wanted to hear more about your candidacy. I will have to play your campaign launch video for the viewers, at least a subset of it, because it was so good.
Look, I'm not Team Red or Team Blue. South Texas, I'm Team U.
So I guess just tell us more about why you're running and why you think you can take down Monica de la Cruz this cycle.
Well, as you said, I think a lot of the people here feel that they were duped. If there's one thing, stereotype that I can say about Hispanics is that we're very hardworking. That's just something that everybody kind of knows, and that's why they're actually deporting people at job sites and doing work. I think our culture values a lot the work, and right now they feel like it's under attack. And they were also promised about that the economy would be better. And I think what they know now is that didn't happen. I think a lot of people thought that they were going to get Trump, 1.0. And Trump 2.0 has been really different. I didn't vote for the guy in either of the elections that he ran, but I think the first time he was president was nowhere near as volatile as it is now. And so there is definitely a big shift away from the people that we're talking to, and a lot of disillusionment. And if there's one thing that I can say is Welcome Pack, and I think winning in the middle. I think people are shifting now, not Republican or Democrat. I think more people consider themselves independent. And I think that we're right in that cusp of where they say, okay, I want to listen to the candidate. I'm not going to vote party line. And so we've been traveling up and down the district. We've gone all the way up to Gonzales, Texas, which is the northernmost part. There's no some man said that you could fit Democrats there in a phone booth. And so these are areas where we had a town hall there, and we drew 150 people. A lot of the people that were there were Republicans. And I think that we had a very good reception with Republican voters. Now, there's going to be there's always going to be a very, very partisan people of the party. But you know what happens, Lauren? I think that in those areas that there's no Democrats, I think they take the people there for granted as well. I feel like they kind of think that everybody will vote Republican all the time. And so the energy in the party is not as big. And what happens a lot when you don't have a healthy two-party, going back and forth, they end up fighting amongst themselves. So there's this inner party squabbles up there that I think are a perfect opportunity for you to come in and say, like, look, man, I just want to make your life better and more affordable. Right. That's all I'm going to fight for. I'm not going to fight culture battles. They don't like that. That's been a big thing that we've noticed up there. They're not big into the culture things. They just want to prioritize. They want us to prioritize the economy. And I think as Democrats, we got to show why we're better. And our messaging has to improve as well. We have to focus on those issues and have a bona fide plan to address it.
100%. And, just thinking about this particular election cycle, why this cycle? Why did you feel like 2026 was the year that you would be most confident to jump in, and also most important for you to be able to meet this moment politically?
Well, I think there was some consideration, and this cycle would be a lot better. That's a fact. But also, I think a lot of the things that happened for me is I had to say goodbye. And for me, I didn't want to just say, okay, I'm done and I'm going to run. I wanted to say, well, I'm going to plan a farewell tour. So to give the fans a chance to say goodbye and to say like, okay, I saw him in his last concert and I had a good time and enjoyed it. And so that kind of everything kind of just aligned that way. And so I do think that this cycle is a lot more favorable. This district is not as red as people think. It's very gettable. And we're seeing it up north. We're seeing it that those are the areas where I'm going to be quite frank. Democrats don't go. And if we go like way back historically, when the Rio Grande Valley was voting, I don't know, 70, 80% Democrat, if you had that part in your district up north, the politicians and the elected officials, they wouldn't even go up north because they could win it with the vote that they had here. And that's no longer the case because it got more competitive down here. So it shifted the power to these northern counties. And if you do not go and talk to the people, they're not going to vote for you. I mean, it's just they will take a national party narrative and how people frame a Democrat to be, and they'll frame that as fact. And if you don't go dispel that and answer their questions and talk to them, you don't stand a chance. So for us, and I get it, right? The whole infrastructure of the party D-trip machine is not so much into retail, but I think retail is everything. And I will say that because down here in Hidalgo County, where we're the anchor county of the district, all of our local officials are Democrats, and they all win by the margins that you need to win the district. But when they run a national campaign and they run a campaign focused with a national strategy, which is TV commercials and mailers and things like that, and they'll tell you signs don't vote and, focus on call time so you can raise money. Well, you're really lacking on the retail, which is how everybody runs here normally. The saying says, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And I will tell you, Lauren, it's very, very time consuming and it's really hard to run retail politics in 11 counties. It's really hard. But I'm going to tell you, I believe this with my soul, with every fiber of my soul, it is necessary, right? We are not going to be able to win this district by just saying, we're going to put a nice commercial. That doesn't work. Because we're fighting a brand issue that they've branded us in a certain way. And the only way that we can dispel that brand is to actually go, talk to them, answer their questions, shake their hand, take a picture with them, look them in the eye and tell them what you want to do to make their lives better.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I don't think I've been able to tell you this, but I actually worked for Beto twice.
Yeah.
One time as a state director in South Carolina, here where I live, and then another time when I was living in Texas and doing like Beto for Texas when he was running for governor.
Mm-hmm.
But say all that to say, that guy knows how to go everywhere and talk to everyone, right? Like that was his thing, like go to every county, retail politics, like you said. So I guess, just thinking about the style of retail politics, like you said, and when in Rome, do as the Romans do, what else are the Democratic Party elected leaders or even just national pollster people involved, what else are they missing about South Texas voters aside from just like showing up, engaging with people? Like, what are the biggest misunderstandings that you feel like you've sensed so far?
I think Republicans they have been better marketers. They will sell people on the fact that they're better for the economy, and that's a bunch of BS. I mean, 10 of the last 11 recessions were started under Republican administrations. GDP historically in the last 30 years has always been better under Democratic administrations. We have been terrible about letting people know why we are better on the economy because I feel like we get bogged down with the culture issues, which again, I'm not saying I'm sympathetic to those issues, but we should not lead with them. And that's the whole problem, right? Like I get it, right? I want equality for all. I do want everybody to be able to live a life that they want to live. I'm all for that. But if you're starting to focus on those issues and you don't focus on the economy and sell them on why we're better on the economy and what we're going to do to fix the issues that we've had at hand, I think we lose every single time. And the business community has been very much voting Republican. I think as a Democrat, I'm going out there and I'm saying I'm pro-business. Like I mean, especially in my region, right? Business kind of domino effects all the way down to everybody. And so if our small businesses are not doing well, then our economy is not doing well. And so I feel like we need to focus more on those issues and stop leading with the other stuff. I get it. I mean, I know, you know, in my district when they were talking about banning fracking and the environment, and listen, I want a healthy, clean environment. I don't want to live in a cesspool of I get it. I understand that. I'm very much against them defunding the EPA. I think that was madness. However, if you go into an oil and gas district where a lot of these high paying jobs are oil and gas, and you tell them we want to ban fracking, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they're going to go, oh, so you're going to take away my job. Right. And guess what? They will never vote for you with that message. It's just not that way. I mean, and that's just an example of things that we've done that historically we've been fighting, right? I mean, think about that, right? Of course, I'm a pro Second Amendment guy. And now, ironically, Second Amendment now comes up on our side where, a protester that was legally carrying a pistol gets that pistol taken away and shot. And now all of a sudden, pro Second Amendment comes to the fight. Well, I've always been Second Amendment. And in Texas, I'm going to tell you, it's not if you have guns. It's how many guns do you have? And that's the question. And so we're a different region. We're a different area. And people need to understand, like, I get it. Do we need better, more effective gun laws to keep them out of the hands of those people that are mentally disturbed? Yes, absolutely. Do I have plans for that? Yes, I do. I have ideas on how to do that. But does that mean that you're going to come out there and say, we're for banning, people hear ban, and I know, you said you worked for Beto's campaign in 2022. When he said he would take away people's guns, AR-15s, I have more than 10 of them. It just doesn't resonate. And there's a lot of Democrats, a lot of people that consider themselves Democrats that have these firearms. And they're like, oh, hell no, you're not going to take away my gun. And so we need to be smarter about what we do and focus on those issues that resonate with the people, with everybody.
There's a lot of people who are, really big haters of Democrats who are like you and me, where we're, moderate to conservative Democrats and Southerners, right? Very different from the rest of the country. And in some ways, not always, but one thing that's always so confusing to me is like, well, they'll be like, why don't you just become a Republican? Or why don't you just run as an independent or Republican? Why do you have to run as a Democrat?
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to people when they're like, obviously so obnoxiously and disillusionally, like saying things like that? What do you say when you're trying to describe to them, like, no, actually, like Democrats can be nuanced, right? Democrats can have a variety of perspectives. Like, what do you say to people like that?
I had a conversation at a taqueria. We did a taqueria tour and somebody challenged me on that. And what I told the young lady is I said, don't confuse conservative with Republican. Don't confuse those two things because they've tried to kind of own that conservatism. But actually, Trump has a lot of populist tendencies and is actually very anti-conservative in many ways. So I tell them, don't confuse conservatism. Listen, what does conservatism mean to me? I try to balance my budget in my house. I want to balance my budget with the people's money too, with taxpayer money, right? We need to be good stewards of the people's money because at the end of the day, it's their money and they want to be sure that if they're paying taxes, it's worth it and you're actually taking care of what they're doing. The problem is that Republicans went and said, oh, we're going to be just like these tax and spend. And I want to balance the budget. And I happen to know for a fact that the last time we had a balanced budget in this country was Bill Clinton. And he did it working with a Republican Speaker of the House. So you have to work together. The reason Congress approval ratings are so low is because of tribalism. So there are actually things, Lauren, that Trump might say, You know what? Insurance companies are too powerful. I happen to agree with that. So, but here's the difference, right? He'll say it and then he doesn't do anything about it. And I'm like, I don't want an executive order. Let's work together. Go put a proposal how we can balance that issue because insurance companies are too powerful. And let me tell you, Citizens United really hurt the Democratic brand and the Democratic Party because it got Democrats now trying to cater and being able to compete with Republicans on the money issues. They started catering to these businesses that are not our friends. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And so I tell people, don't confuse conservative Democrat with a Republican. I'm not a Republican, right? And listen, Republicans' basic philosophy is government is the problem, right? So I'm like, so why the hell should I vote for you if you're telling me you're running for a governmental position and you say that that's the problem? Well, I don't believe government's the problem. Do I believe that we need to look and always should get a more effective government? Sure, absolutely. Right? Is there leaks that we need to go out there and punch up because it's not perfect and there's been fraud and there's been things that they've abused and we need to fix it? Absolutely. I'm all in favor of that. We should always try to improve government. Now, I don't want an excess amount of government, but we need government. Right? And a country without government isn't a country that they claim they want to have a good military. They want to have a law enforcement taken care of. So they want to have like their cake and eat it too. We want all these things. And then we don't want to pay taxes. And like, I just say like, make that make sense, right? I'm smart enough to know that money doesn't grow on trees. And that's the reason why I'm not a Republican. I am a Democrat. I am conservative. Listen, I want to make sure that the traditions that I passed, that my dad passed on to me, that I can conserve them and raise my sons the way that my dad raised me, because I happen to like it. So I want to conserve that. Is that such a bad thing for me? I don't think so. I don't think so. So, the problem with that was saying, well, I'm a conservative Democrat. People look at that and go like, oh, no, then you're just a MAGA guy. No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I think a lot of the things of our way of life that we have in South Texas, people do not want them to change, and that's where it gets into the nuance of, on our side of the aisle, there's a progressive wing and there's a moderate wing, correct? And the progressive by nature wants to change things. We want to change. We want to ban fracking. We want to change this. We want to change that. This is wrong. We want to change. And it's all admirable. Who doesn't want to live in a society with all green energy where people have jobs and it's this utopia where everybody's doing well? I want the same thing, right? I do. I want the same thing. The question is that even possible by snapping your finger and putting somebody in to do so? I don't think so. I think long-term, it's a great goal to have, but we have to take baby steps in where we're going. And, in the cities, there's a huge rural and city divide. Cities are all about change. They embrace change. Heck, that's where you see self-checkout machines with nobody behind the counter, right? And you see cars driving around with nobody in them. And I'm here to tell you that rural America is probably polar opposite when it comes to change. They just say, I just want you to make my life better, right? Don't change it. So we have that divide where, as a Democrat, like, I feel like we have to understand rural America a little bit better. Sorry for the long rant.
No, I was just like, I'm going to let Bobby cook right now because he's spitting, okay? Strong retweet, Bobby. No, you hit on like a million things that were like, I was like, yes. And you talked about like, big corporations, billionaires, like how does the Democratic Party find the balance between like a person's true desire to have the American dream and build wealth with people like in the Democratic Party just condemning anyone who wants to be wealthy? Does that make sense? Like people are like, they're anti-billionaire and like whatever, how you feel about that. But it's just like people want to be wealthy. They're not mad at billionaires and millionaires for having money. They're mad that they don't have the access at the top. You know what I mean? So anyway, thoughts on that?
I do not agree with demonizing successful people. Because here's the thing, I happen to be one. Like, hey, man, I don't apologize for having success, and I shouldn't have to. This is not about demonizing the rich. I don't agree with that. It's just like Mitt Romney wrote an op-ed. We have to pay more taxes. Like, hello, that you can say both things at the same time. You can say, I'm not demonizing you, but you got to pay more, right? The income disparity has just keep going. Look, who's going to come to the rescue of our country right now? The people that have money, because you can try to squeeze a rock and squeeze juice out of a rock. It doesn't have any juice. And if you're trying to squeeze the people that are already and have been squeezed, how are we going to fix our economy?
I want to ask you about your Republican incumbent, Monica De La Cruz. So, she was first elected in 2022, so she hasn't been in Congress very long. I think she also lost her race in 2020, running for Congress. Why do you think that specific to this unique race, you are going to provide the best contrast and ability to really provide solutions for voters comparatively to De La Cruz, right? Like, how has she let voters down? What have voters in your district been most concerned about in terms of her leadership? Where have they been upset with her, et cetera? Like, any thoughts on that part?
Absolutely. Listen, I match up perfectly well against her. I mean, literally, and I will tell you, her biggest weakness is my greatest strength. That's why I feel like we're going to beat her, because her biggest weakness is she doesn't do town halls, never has done a town hall, never answered questions to her constituents. She has lost a lot of people in the construction business. When they said these ICE raids are hurting our pocketbooks, I can't field a crew. Please say something. Please do something. She remained silent. Right? And so they feel, now mind you, Lauren, these are all people that voted for her. They supported her. They went, you're our representative. And she's let them down. There's voting blocks of people that I have gone to go meet with that they say she's been here in 3 years and I never had a meeting like this. So whatever her weakness is where I'm going to expose. And I've been exposing. Now it's time consuming and it's a lot of work because you're going to go, well, shoot, I can just go, instead of doing that, I'll just go buy commercials. But that doesn't work. That doesn't move the needle enough to what we need to move the needle. So when you go and you talk to the builders and you say, hey guys, I hear you. I'm against this. Let's really go try to find a solution. They just want to feel heard and listened to. And, it's a domino effect. The builders build homes. And if they're not building homes, then realtors don't have homes to sell. And then they're frustrated because they're not selling. And so there's two big voting blocks right there that she had on her board 100%. And they're gone. In a large part, I'm sure she has a couple of friends here and there, but for the most part, there is a big fracturing there where they're starting to see, hey, I need somebody to come and back us up. Who's got our back? They called her. They tried to get a hold of her. Well, all this stuff was happening. As soon as she started seeing me meet with them, she said, I want a meeting. Right? So like literally, I'm leading on this and she's following and she's the incumbent and she needs to be ashamed of herself.
So kind of shifting gears here a little bit, you are a very famous music artist and obviously have had a beautiful career.
Semi-famous.
Whatever, bro. You're fantastic. You're fantastic. And music ran in your family too. How has transitioning from a music artist and a performer and entertainer to a congressional candidate been? I hope you don't get this question all the time. I was like, he probably gets this question a lot, but what has the transition been like? And, I guess, how have you been excited to transfer the skills that you had, making music, entertaining crowds, engaging with people into the congressional side of things?
I went from being really loved for people being indifferent. Maybe they're not fans. Maybe they say, okay, I've never really heard your music, but they're cool. It's like a switch. You go from being loved or hated when you're in politics. And it's just, it's kind of like, wow. You got a couple. I used to be your fan. I'm no longer your fan. I'm like, well, I don't. I'm not a fan of people's music because of their political stances or their political views. But it's been okay. It's been okay. It's definitely harder than music. In music, especially when I'm on tour, I don't really talk during the day. I got to save my voice. I sleep more to rest my voice. That way, when I have a concert, my voice is powerful and fresh. And politics is you don't sleep and you talk your ass off all the time, constantly, right? So it's very different from that aspect. But look, is it cooler being an artist? Yes. Is it nicer being loved and not receive hate in your life? Yes. But if you want to get in there and represent your people, sometimes you got to go through all the BS in order to do so. And I'm okay. I'm a big boy. I'm not weak. I don't like it, but I understand it. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I mean, it's definitely a challenge. It's hard. They twist your words around. You got to be real careful. They did it recently with James Tellerico, where he said we need a big porch. To immigration where we need a big porch, and then they cut out the part with a lock on the door. Yeah, they take that part off. They edit it out, and it's just like I understand, and most and smart people understand that quote was not that. But there's so many people that don't do their research that see that and go, "Oh, so he's for open borders." No, he never said that, but they twist it, and that's the most disappointing, I think, part of politics is you want to get your message and you want to talk to people, but they will edit stuff out in order to try to nail you. I mean, they're sending trackers following me everywhere I go, recording every town hall.
Trying to catch you slipping.
Trying to catch you slipping.
What would you say that you feel like you hope that voters look into about you? Like, you know me as a music artist, but what do you want them to know about your values and your systems of belief and who you are foundationally as a human so that they can entrust you with their vote?
I think people historically over the years, I've done lots of interviews and I think I've represented the Valley well. I've never been in a scandal or, been arrested or anything that would embarrass my parents of anything that I've done. I think my biggest challenge is for people to see me in a different light and understand that I'm very, very capable of representing them. That's the absolute reason why I'm doing podcasts like these, where I'm able to talk about issues. Like, I'm a political nerd. Nobody really knew that side of me, right? I'm very, very much into history. I was a political science major in college. And so to me, I feel like I have a grasp on any issue. Like, there's nothing out there that I can't educate myself on if I haven't been educated already. And I feel like I can express myself. It's just, that's going to be it. It's just getting people to see me and listen to me talk on issues to say, you know what, the guy really knows what he's talking about, right? That's going to be the secret sauce in what we're trying to do here. And so I tell everybody all the time, if you don't know who to vote for, me or Monica de la Cruz, go Google any of my interviews. And there's a lot of them about politics and policy. And Google her. You won't find anything because she's never done one. Everything that she'll read is just these punch lines that, there's chaos at the border and we need to fix that. Well, what does that mean? Like, yeah, Captain Obvious, what policies are you going to actually have? Right. And not only that, actually get passed with bipartisanship. Look, the House is not going to move. Those days of 25, 30 vote majorities are over. Those days are over. So all the margins are going to be like this, right? So you got to be able to move those margins with people from across the aisle. That's just the reality. And so it's just doing that. I mean, I feel that's my biggest weakness. It's just that people have not heard me talk enough about issues.
But I feel like people also would be so inspired and refreshed to see, like, You are so well-rounded, right? Because you're not just a music artist and an entertainer. You, like you said, you studied poli-sci in college. You have talked through policy issues. You've done your research. So people can also probably be encouraged for themselves, like, hey, I don't have to be a one-trick pony. Like, I can do lots of things.
Right.
I can have a career in one thing and I can transition to another thing with those transferable skills. So hopefully that's even inspiring to, like, the young people who are following your race and your career, and they can understand, like, you don't have to just be one thing in life. You can be multiple things. You can be well-rounded, and you can enjoy lots of things about this country and this life.
I agree with that 100%.
Well, Bobby, this was an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed getting to catch up with you and just hear your sentiments. I've got lots of clips that I want to pull from this episode for sure. So thank you for providing the great content that we always appreciate. Bobby, thank you again. You are fantastic. Guys, give to Bobby. This is your chance to give him some dollars. Okay, please and thank you. He is on our Win the Middle slate. You can find him on Act Blue if you just Google Welcome Win the Middle slate. Give him some dollars, throw him some support, tell your friends about him, and make sure people know about his candidacy. If you don't live in Texas, like, make sure other people know about his candidacy, because this is a race to watch. This is a race that we can absolutely flip. Bobby is the candidate to do it. So please support him, support him, support him. Bobby, thank you so much. You're awesome and always great catching up with you.
Thank you.